Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So I just started filming the intro to this video and then realised I hadn't pressed play on my camera, so we're gonna try this again. But as you've probably guessed from the title and the thumbnail, in this video we are going to be going through my July TBR as chosen by my TBR game. I'm a booktuber, get me out of here. I will leave the playlist linked in the description just in case you wanted to watch from the beginning if you've never seen my TBR game before, but the rules are pretty simple, I think, to pick up. So yeah, we're gonna get stuck into things, I think. I don't know if I have much that I need to say in this intro. I'm filming this around a week early and actually I have almost finished my June TBR, which is quite exciting because it means I can have about a week to mood read before starting into my July TBR, and I have a few ambitious reading plans for July. I am also planning to take part in SUMMERWEEN in July. That's the only readathon at the moment that I'm planning to take part in. I've never taken part in SUMMERWEEN before, but I realised recently that a lot of my most anticipated thriller releases for 2023 have either come out recently or are coming out over the summer, so I'm in the mood to read some thrillers, especially because I feel like it's been a while since I last read like a 5-star thriller. But yeah, that's I think everything that I needed to say in this intro. I'm gonna try not to ramble too much. Also, I'm filming this with the window open because it is boiling hot and I would rather have some ambient background noise in the video than have me looking like a mess. So hopefully we're gonna be okay. But without further ado, let's go with roll number 1. So roll number 1 is 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is a challenge. And the challenge is to read a 2022 release. Roll number 1 landed on challenge, and the challenge was to read a 2023 release, not a 2022 release, like I think I said in the video. That would have been embarrassing if I hadn't realised until I started editing. But I have a few options for this, and it really all depends on whether I get approved for certain arcs that I've requested. So I have requested an arc of 0 Days by Ruth Ware because this comes out in July, I think, and I do love Ruth Ware. She's one of my auto-buy authors, but I tend to prefer her mysteries rather than her thrillers, and this sounds like it's going to be really high action, so I don't know if it's going to be for me, but I want to give it a go anyway. It does sound kind of intriguing. I think it's been compared to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think it's about a woman whose husband is murdered and she's accused of being the killer, and I think she goes on the run to try and track down who is actually responsible. I have also requested a copy of this from my library, so I should be front of the queue once they acquire it, but I don't know whether it's going to take a few months for it to come in. So if that doesn't work out, then I do also have an arc for Murder in the Family by Cara Hunter, which is another thriller that I've been really looking forward to, and this comes out in July as well, so hopefully I can read both, but we'll see if that actually happens. Roll number 2 is a 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is romance. Roll number 2 landed on romance, and for this I don't know if I'm cheating a little bit because I don't know if this book is technically a romance or whether it's more of a contemporary that has a romance. It sounds like a romance to me, and I do need to read this in July because it's due back at the library by the 6th, and also I'm going to be buddy reading this with Aoife from Pretty Purple Polka Dots, so yeah. I'm going to count it because I'm really excited to read this. It's Tell Me Everything by Laura Kay. I read another book by this author last month and really enjoyed it. I think it's going to be one of my favourite books of the year, and what I liked most about it was the main character was a bit of a mess, and the main character in this also sounds like a bit of a mess. We're following Natasha, who's a therapist, and her love life is a mess. It actually says that on the back of the book. She's still living with her ex, and after a stream of one-night stands, she's starting to feel like nothing is gonna stick. But then Margot arrives on the scene and everything changes. So sounds intriguing, and I think this counts as a romance. We'll soon find out once I start reading it, but very excited to be reading more books by this author. I'm hoping this is going to be another 5 stars. Rule number 3 is a 3. 1, 2, 3, which is fantasy. Rule number 3 landed on fantasy, and for this I'm going with Dragonhaven by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Rainworld Chronicles and book 11 in the Realm of the Outlands. I think I have been reading the series for the longest time, and at this point I have lost count of how many books I've read in this series and in this world, but I'm very excited to be continuing this series because I really enjoyed book 1 and I was surprised by how much I liked it, because I've heard a few people say that this is their least favourite series within the Realm of the Outlands, but I really like this part of the world and I really love learning about the history of this world, and I think that's what this series is going to deal with. And also there's dragons, and you do get the perspective of one of the dragons, which I find really interesting, and I love how Robin Hobb books feel cozy, but the stuff that's happening is not cozy at all. Robin Hobb really likes to torture her characters, and they go through a lot of trauma and pain, and yeah, I feel like this series isn't going to be any different, but so far I like the characters and I've really enjoyed seeing the links between all of the other series and looking for Easter eggs. I find it really fun. So very excited to be reading this. I'm going to listen to the audiobook because they're all available on Scribd, and I really like the narration on the audiobooks for this series. Although I have heard actually that this second book has a different narrator to the first book in the series, and I don't know how I feel about that. So hopefully it'll all be okay. Rule number 4 is a 1, which is another challenge. And the challenge is to read an audiobook. Rule number 4 landed on challenge, and the challenge was to read an audiobook. So for this, I've gone with a book that I do own physically. However, I recently found out that the audiobook for this book is narrated by my favourite audiobook narrator, so it kind of makes sense to listen to the audiobook. Maybe I'll listen to the audiobook while I read along physically, but I'm going with Scarlet by Genevieve Cogman. This is the Goldsborough edition, which has beautiful stenciled edges, and from what I understand this is a Scarlet Pimpernel retelling, and I think there's also vampires, but I'm really intrigued by the setting for this. I believe it's historical. I mean, yeah, it is. It says there on the front of the book. It's set in France in 1793, and the little tagline here says, "Revolutionaries want blood, but vampires bite back." So hoping this is going to be a good time. Like I said, this is narrated by my favourite audiobook narrator, which is Georgia Maguire. She also narrated Sweet Pea by CJ Scoos, and I really like the way that she makes the characters feel alive. So very excited to be getting to this, and I'm very excited to be reading one of my Goldsborough books. I would like to try and work through my backlist over the next few months. I think I've mentioned this in a few videos recently, but I'm actually thinking about cancelling my Goldsborough subscription because I've been subscribed for nearly a year now, and of the books that I've received so far, I think I've read 2 maybe 3. So I've read less than I've not read, and I don't know whether it's worth continuing with the subscription when I'm clearly not prioritising the books. I think the problem is that a lot of the books are first books in series, and obviously I don't want to start the series until I know that there's a prequel coming out, but I want to try and read as many of the books as I can so I can decide whether it is worth continuing, because if I like the books, then it doesn't matter if I'm taking a while to get round to them, because I'm gonna like them in the end when I do eventually pick them up. I don't know if any of that made sense, but yeah, excited to be getting round to this. Raw number 5 is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is another romance. Raw number 5 landed on romance, and for this I'm going with The Fiancé Farce by Alexandria Bellfleur. So this is a Sapphic romance, and because Tell Me Everything is also Sapphic, I figured I could do a reading vlog where I read Sapphic books, because I haven't done one of those in a while, and these are both by authors who I've read from and loved before, so I think it'll be a fun vlog to do. But The Fiancé Farce is a marriage of convenience, I believe, that also might have fake dating. I think the reviews that I've heard for this so far have been a little middle of the road, so I'm gonna be interested to see what I think of it. And then this could be the final roll. It's not, it's a 1, which is thriller. Roll number 6 landed on thriller, and for this I'm going with The Only One Left by Riley Sager, which I am nervous about, because Riley Sager is the definition of a hit or miss author for me. I loved Lock Every Door and Home Before Dark, but I hated Final Girls and The House Across the Lake. So every time he brings out a new release now, I'm gonna be nervous, because I've given all of his books every rating from 2 stars to 5 stars. So far though, all of the reviews that I've heard for his latest release have been really positive, so that gives me hope. I believe this is about a woman who accepts a job as a carer for this woman who, back in like the 60s or 70s, she was accused of murdering her family. And I think there's like a mystery of, did she really do it or did she not? I think we follow her like recounting her story. But yeah, nervous about this one, but also very hopeful based on the few reviews that I've seen so far. And then this might be the final roll. It is 1, 2, 3. So that does bring me to the end of this video. I feel like this is a shorter TBR than usual, but thanks for watching. If you have made it this far, let me know in the comments any books that are on your July TBR, or if you've read any of the books that I've talked about. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me. But otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye.